Hello guys, this is my guide about the controls, user interface and hotkeys in Age of Empires 3. This guide will be focused on the Asian Dynasties expansion, therefore it might not apply to the vanilla version of Age of Empires 3 and the War Chiefs. So let's play Age of Empires 3. What you're gonna need is a computer, a keyboard and a mouse. That's our first topic, peripherals! When choosing your mouse, you gotta keep in mind there are different kinds of mouses. Some are corded and some are wireless. For gaming, I always recommend a corded mouse simply because it won't have any connection problems and it will never fail you because it doesn't run out of batteries. There are different types of mouses. Some are symmetrical and some are asymmetrical. Choose the one that fits your palm the best. There are also mouses with extra keys. Those can come in useful when you're playing a game like Age of Empires. As far as gaming goes, it doesn't really matter what kind of a keyboard you have. A really simple keyboard will do just fine. There are some keyboards that have extra keys, but it doesn't really matter in this game, because a keyboard has enough keys to bind all the necessary functions, all the necessary hotkeys. There are also some keyboards that include macro functionality out of the box, but macros are not allowed in competitive gaming. But what about controllers? Well, a mouse and a keyboard will give you much more control over the game than a controller, simply because that combination gives you so much speed and precision. So this is your screen, this is your user interface. Here you can see the map, the commands, resources, population, your home city, the shipments, the XP, the selected unit, the amount of selected units, and the statistics of the unit. Now this is the standard setup, but you can customize it. Let's go into the menu. User interface. Now you may have noticed that the user interface panel is very big. You should make it smaller so that you can see more map. This can be done with Enable Minimized UI. Now we have more screen space. The minimized UI also lets you see unit statistics without having to change the panels. Let's go over the most important settings. Show unit training queue. It's important that you see what units you're training right now. As you can see, it is shown above the map. Show game time. If you're paying a lot of attention to the game, you should be aware of the timings, when you're supposed to age, when your opponent is going to age, etc. Show player score. This is useful because knowing the score lets you see how far ahead or behind you are from your opponent. Show advanced formations. This allows you to change the unit tactics. For example, ranged infantry can be in volley mode, in stagger mode, melee mode, defend mode, and stand ground mode. Each of those modes have a different purpose. Show advanced unit type information lets you see what type of a unit you have selected. This lets you know what upgrades will influence the statistics of this unit. Enable friend or foe colors. The setting can be used in games with many players. It makes your color blue and all the enemy colors red. The teammates will be colored yellow. Show advanced improvement information. This setting lets you see what the different researches and techs improve. Alt key shows hit point bars. This setting is useful when you're microing units. Sometimes you want to kill the unit with the lowest HP, other times you want to target the unit with the highest HP. HP stands for hit points. Other important settings include game world tooltips. These let you know what kind of resources are found in the treasures and etc. I would recommend the delay to be set to the shortest. Show visual control groups. Your control groups will be shown in the upper left corner of your screen. Enable Wonder Power UI. This lets you see the abilities that your wonders have. Once the ability is used, the red timer will be displayed over the abilities icon. There is also the zoom option. You should play with the furthest zoom possible, so that you see more map. When not using military easy drag in a situation where you have multiple types of units selected, use Ctrl plus click to select only a single type of units. Use Shift plus click to deselect a single type of units. These are the settings that I recommend you to use. There are also some user interface mods that offer some advantages over the standard UI.
Hotkeys!
Using hotkeys saves time. Whenever you move your mouse over to the other side of the screen, it takes quite some time because you have to click precisely. This is where hotkeys come in handy. You're basically saving precious time by using hotkeys. You should keep your military and production buildings grouped. Otherwise, every time you need to control your military, you need to find it and select it. Configuring your hotkeys is all about comfort. If you have comfortable hotkeys, you'll be able to remember them easily and press them easily. You won't have to move your keyboard hand all over the keyboard. From general game hotkeys, the only hotkey you're likely to use is attack move. By default it's Z. As I've heard in Nilla it is X. From game world hotkeys, the only hotkey you probably need to remember is pause and pause game. By default it's F7. Selection group hotkeys. In my opinion, the keys 6, 7, 8 and 9 are too far away from your left hand. Therefore, I just bind these hotkeys to F1, F2, F3 and F4 respectively. I also changed them in the add group hotkeys and create group hotkeys. Remove from any group hotkey is also very far away, that's why I bind it to Ctrl plus tilde key.
That's here.
Find unit hotkeys. There are a lot of useful keys here. I think the most important are Find Explorer, Find Idle Villager, and Find Town Center. I also use Find Selection. I think finding specific buildings can be useful, but I usually just group my buildings to selection groups. Another useful hotkey you might find here is Find All of Selected Type. Building construction hotkeys. These hotkeys should be kept in mind, because a lot of these you're going to use very often. Often it's useful to enable Allow Conflicts option, because most of the time you can group many functions to a single key. Wait, I need a drink. That's better. Town Center hotkeys. I like to move Ring Town Bell away from my left hand so that I never press that key accidentally. I really dislike the Town Bell function. Also, I like to move Eject Garrisoned units closer to my left hand. This, however, is up to you. Now you could just memorize all these hotkeys for barracks, stables, and artillery foundries. But what I like to do is make all my musketeer type units to a single key, all my skirmisher type units to another key, and all my archer type units to the third key. The same can be done with all the pikeman type units, with all the second hand infantry units, with all the melee cavalry units, with all the secondary melee cavalry units, with all the light cavalry units, and with all the secondary light cavalry units. This way you can keep using the same keys with a lot of civilizations. In docks, I like to change the fishing bows to the same key as my villagers, that is V. If you're going to play a lot of Indian civilizations, and with that I mean Sioux, Aztec and Iroquois, you should learn your fire pit hotkeys. Another section that is useful to know is abilities hotkeys. I like to keep the command hotkeys in my mind. Sometimes you need to repair multiple buildings or wall pieces. In that case, it's very useful to know toggle auto repair. Another key you could use is eject units. Eject units can become very useful when you got to evacuate your military from a boat, or evacuate your villagers from a tower or a friendly town center. Unit tactics hotkeys. You should change these keys to ones that you can easily remember. The most useful keys here will be infantry melee mode, infantry volley mode, cavalry melee mode, cover mode, and bombard mode. Sometimes your cannons like to pack up and walk away in the middle of the fight. In this case you have to remind them with the bombard mode that they should keep fighting. And lastly, hero pets and disciples hotkeys. From these, the only ones I would ever use are training disciples and training war dogs. Let's go over my personal hotkeys. But remember, these are not the best hotkeys. This is just my preference. You should use those hotkeys that are the most comfortable for you. As I already said in the video, I've changed selection group hotkeys, and I'll say it again. In my opinion, it's much easier to press F1 through F4 instead of 6 through 9 with your left hand. And ungrouping hotkey is left to tilde key. In Find Unit hotkeys, I've set my town center to tilde key as well. I use Find Selection a lot, but I've left it default. You'll notice that I've unmapped a bunch of hotkeys. This is because I don't use them and I don't want to accidentally press them. Find Monastery I've set to F3, find Saloon F3, find Fort and Fire Pit is F4, find Consulate F4, find Dock 5. You'll notice that these keys overlap the selection group hotkeys, and this is how I use my selection groups. In building construction keys, barracks, blockhouses, war huts, and war academies are set to B. Noble's hut is set to S, the same as Caravanserai. I've changed my outpost key from O to W so that it's easier to reach. The same thing I did for my trading post from P to T. I've changed my bank to F, consulate to F, mills and rice paddies to X. I also changed my castles to A so that they are the same as artillery foundries. If your mouse has a scroll wheel, then it probably has a clicker in the scroll wheel. I think it's most useful to use this click for building walls or finding all units of the selected type. Also, I changed my wander to W. In the town center I changed eject garrisoned units from N to E, and I removed my town bell hotkeys. In 3D40 sometimes you will use cows and sheep, or water buffaloes and goats. I use my control group 2 for cow livestock pens and control group 3 for sheep livestock pens. And when I make my cow and sheep hotkeys the same, I can train a bunch of cows by just clicking one button. The same goes for sheep. Same applies to village hotkeys and farm hotkeys. In the docks, I've made all my caravel type ships to A, my fishing boats to V, the small canoes are to W, all galleon type ships are on Q, and all frigate type ships are on S. Monitors are on D. In my native embassy, the only ones I've changed are the natives for Great Plains, Andes, and Deccan. I use my control group 5 for native embassies. Therefore, I can click 5 a bunch of times and make Incas or Cheyenne riders or war elephants. Then I can move my finger by one button and make the alternative. In the abilities hotkeys, I've changed a bunch of keys so that they overlap more. This way it's easier for me to remember. In command hotkeys, I've made my eject units key the same as it is for my town center. In unit tactics hotkeys, I've again made it so that they overlap. Basically, these keys will resemble the ones that I use for training units. If you liked the video, comment, like, and subscribe.